Hey everyone, this is Keith Scott from out in Sydney, Australia. I'm one of the voices of Bullwinkle J. Moose. It's time to watch Relentless and Unstoppable. And so give it up for your main hosts, Douglas Kenny and Andy McPhee.
Hey everybody, this is Doug Kenny and welcome to Relentless and Unstoppable. We have another amazing guest coming on the channel today, so please hit like and subscribe. And after this episode, please stay tuned to the RNU channel for more amazing guests. Let's get this on!
Hey everybody, how you doing? Just a quick little share of why I started Relentless and Unstoppable. It was for one very simple reason, because of Doug Kenny. Nothing to do with me at all, zero. I was just coaching Doug, and he took on the coaching and mentoring, and he made all the changes. He took all the suggestions from his parents as well as my coaching, but it was all about Doug, his breakthrough and his weight loss, his willingness to accept that he is dealing with high functioning autism and other issues, but he's never quit, he's never given up. So we did one interview with him to share his story, and then we decided to start interviewing other people. And Doug has now taken over the whole channel, and he does all the interviews, he runs everything. He's just an amazing young man. So RNU was born from simply what an amazing young man Doug is, and his story needed to be shared.
Yeah.
What did you do to overcome all that?
So for me, what worked for me was prayer. And my sister, when she died, so let me set the record straight. I'm not a religious person. I didn't grow up going to church every Sunday, but I did have a relationship with God. I prayed. As of now, I don't go to church now, but I do pray. I do believe prayer works. And I do believe everything happens for a reason. And I trust God. And I know his plan for me is greater than the plans that I have for myself. And so when my sister died, I cussed God out because I didn't want to be mad at my sister. I'm like, how can you take my sister away? I hate you. You're not real. Boom, boom, boom. And didn't speak to him again. Of course, my life went to crap after that. So it was years later. It was actually August 30th, because I'll have 25 years clean and sober on August 30th. So that night back then, I was like, I don't want to drink and drug anymore. I don't want to have these suicidal thoughts anymore. Take them away. And that was my first time speaking to God since my sister had died. And like I tell people, I asked for that day. And at the end of the day, when I made it through the end of the day, I said, thank you. And then it was the next day and the next day. And now it's 25 years later. So I think it was in 91 or 92. At one point, I did go into a program, and I was clean and sober for 4 years because, that's what you were taught to, I was taught to do. You want to get clean and sober, you go to detox. I went to detox. I went to a 30-day program, which I was there for 45 days. And I stayed clean and sober for 4 years, and then I fell off the wagon. And I was out there for 2 more years. And then 1998, I haven't went back.
That is really amazing. How long are you going to be clean again?
25 years.
That is amazing. I overcame addiction as well, although in my case, it was a soda addiction.
It was a what addiction?
A soda addiction. Coke,
Soda?
Pepsi. Yeah, Coke, Pepsi, all that.
Oh, awesome. I stopped drinking soda in 2011. I have not had a soda since 2011.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
It is awesome. And the addiction ruled my life for pretty much 20 years. It ruled my life for 20 years from ages 5 until 2020 or whatever. Yeah, 2020 is when I quit my addiction, and it was very difficult. In the days leading up to it, I was having like 3 to 5 2 liters of soda per day. That's how bad the addiction was. And then I started having restless nights and panic attacks around the time that the global pandemic happened. And after about maybe 3 4 nights of panic attacks and losing sleep, I just finally decided to quit because I recognized it was from all the caffeine and all the sugar and everything. So I quit, and I've never gone back since.
Oh, that is so awesome. I used to smoke cigarettes and I quit. I stopped smoking in 2003, and it was like because of a bet. So the guy I was dating with at the time. So I actually had surgery. I ended up getting like a hole in my intestines, and they had to cut my intestines, resection it. And so I was hospitalized for 6 days. And once they took the tubes out of me, I'm like, I'm going to smoke a cigarette. And my boyfriend was at the time, he was like, you haven't smoked a cigarette in 6 days. Why don't you just quit? And I'm like, well, why don't you quit drinking beer? And yeah, he lasted a year, and I haven't smoked a cigarette since. So it's good giving up things that we're addicted to and stuff.
Yeah.
It really is.
How did life feel for you after quitting addiction?
Um, I want to say it felt good. I mean, of course, there were days that I thought that I would go back. So even with smoking cigarettes, like I gained so much weight, which I still have. Um, that I thought about if I went back to smoking cigarette, I would lose the weight. Like, Tua, you should smoke a cigarette again so you could lose the weight. But that hasn't happened. And even with soda, I'm like, you could have some ginger ale. Like, they give you ginger ale in a hospital, but like it can't be that bad for you if they give you ginger ale in a hospital. But I have not went back. And it's so funny because I have a Pepsi in my refrigerator because my family cookout was last Sunday, and everybody just threw everything in my car. And I was like, soda? Like, I don't even drink soda. But I took the can and put it in the fridge for whenever the grandkids, if they come by and want it. But yeah, it's like I don't even have the desire for it. And of course, smoking, smelling cigarettes kind of make my stomach churn now. Um, Even with liquor, I'm like, I know that's God, because I know if it was up to me, I'm like, the drinks look all pretty pink with the sugar on the brim and stuff, but I know I don't want that. Even my therapist, she was like, how do you measure success? And I'm like, as long as I stay clean and sober, I know I can accomplish anything.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really impressed with that. That's awesome that you've never gone back, you know. So, how did you take your therapeutic path to get to where you are now?
So I'm in therapy now. I've been with this therapist for I think over a year. And before, when I was with a therapist, I kind of um so pre-COVID, I went to my primary care like, oh, I'm feeling like something's off. I need to talk to someone. And then COVID happened, and we wasn't going into spaces and this and that. And I was a preschool teacher. And so it was just funny being in the classroom and trying to keep the kids apart and doing the virtual learning, that eventually I was like, I can't do this. Like, I need to step away. I found myself snapping at people and just not having patience with people. And you can't be that way if you work around kids, right? So I
Mhm.
was like, let me just step away. And even though I lived alone, like COVID was just a different type of being alone type of thing. Yeah. So
That's pretty amazing.
yeah, so I've been with this therapist since COVID. Yeah.
Cool. So was your depression because of the loss of your sister, or was it because of something in the head?
No, no. I think before my sister died, it was just a lot. I had been raped before, and domestic violence and sexual assault and all types of things that just kind of built up and stuff that I would cry about and be sad about and thinking my life was crap and my self-worth was, I can't even say it, on a scale from 0 to 10, it was lower than a 0. um I felt like all these bad things were happening to me and the mistreatment, and was my self-esteem was just really low. It was just really low.
Yeah. What advice can you give young people that are going through the same things?
The advice that I give to young people is to have a plan. Is to have a plan. Like, we don't wait for a house to be on fire to go out and buy a fire extinguisher. So you don't want to wait for the crisis to happen, right? You want to have a plan, and in your plan should be people who you can talk to. So even I have a group on Sundays, which is called I'm Still Here, for those of us who considered suicide. So everybody in the group is actively considering killing themselves. And so we discuss this a lot, is just having a plan of people you can call, a playlist of songs that lift you up. I know whenever I hear Walking on Sunshine by Katrina and the Waves, it just puts me in a whole nother mood. Maroon 5, Sunday Morning, brings me joy. There's a lot of songs that bring me joy. So having that ready, and the list of who you can call, you also have to recognize that someone may be in the shower, someone may be on a Zoom. So to have a list of people, not just one person, and be like, oh, they haven't called. And of course, 988, we have that. Now always reach out to the hotlines. That's what they're there for. And even people in my group, I'm like, if you don't get anyone, call me. I'm like, but no, I'm not a therapist or anything, but I am someone who can listen, because a lot of times we just need someone to listen,
Yeah,
and just to tell us it'll be okay.
for sure. What do you think schools can do to improve mental health for teenagers?
I would think inviting an organization like Dee Dee's Cry to come to the school and speak to the kids. We have, um, it's called the No Self Harm Initiative, where I speak to kids about cutting and about how to support themselves and their friends. If a friend says, you know what, I can't do this anymore, right? You want to clarify, what does that mean? You don't want to take it for granted that I can't do it anymore just means, go to school. You need to clarify, what do you mean by that? You know, and when you ask someone, do you feel like killing yourself? And we need to ask those questions, but we need to be prepared for the answer too. If you don't feel like you're prepared for the answer, don't ask the question. But because you can't ask someone, do you feel like killing yourself? And they say yes. And then you're like, oh, I gotta go food shopping right now, and leave that person. Just be sure that you have the time to spend with that person. And then you want to ask that person, how can I support you? What can I do to make you stay for today? You're not thinking about tomorrow. You're not thinking about next week. What can I do to make you safe today? Right. And the answer could be like, I want to go to the ER, to the emergency department. that could take 5 hours, especially if you live in Boston. Our ER it's a long wait time. So make sure you have that time. It could just be, can you sit here and hold my hand? But make sure you have that time to do that.
Yeah.
And then you always want to ask, how can I support you? You don't want to assume this is what the person needs. Ask them what they need.
Yeah, for sure. So, what are your hopes for the future?
My hopes for the future. Well, my hope is with Dee Dee's Cry. So right now, I'm in the midst of trying to get a memorial built in the city of Boston. We don't have a memorial for those that we lost to suicide. So I'm working on that. Dee Dee's Cry is working to launch a lost team, and a lost team is local outreach to survivors of suicide. That when there is a suicide in the city, the lost team will go out and provide resources and compassion to that family. Like when my sister died, the police just came and said that she died and just left. There was no directions, no anything. So, and it still happens that way. Sadly, in some areas, it still happens that way. So with Dee Dee's Cry, we are looking for volunteers to make up this lost team. The lost team is usually made up by volunteers who've been impacted by suicide. But to me, it's anybody who just wants to help, who wants to support a family who's been impacted by suicide.
Good on you. So this is the final question I have, which is how can your journey impact the world?
Everyone's journey can impact the world. At Dee Dee's Cry, we encourage people to share their story, because you never know the impact. You may never know the impact. Because even where I'm at in the space, if I say to someone, oh, I've been clean and sober for 25 years, and they're like, oh my gosh, I just started last week, and it empowers them to know that you can get to 25 years is possible. So you never know whose story, who you will touch with your story. So Dee Dee's Cry, we want to normalize the conversation. The same way you could say to a friend, I fell and broke my ankle today. You should be able to say, I had a hard time getting out of bed today. I had a panic attack this morning. To receive the support you would if you said, if you even said, oh, my tire broke, and somebody be like, oh, you need a lift to work. You should be able to say, I had a panic attack, and them say, oh, do you need me to come over and just sit with you? Right. So.
That makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that's all we have for now, but we thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
No problem. Where can people find you?
They can find me on Facebook, Toy Burton. You can follow me there, ToyBurton. I am on Instagram. Definitely follow Dee Dee's Cry on Facebook, DEEDEE'Scry, Dee Dee's Cry. It's funny, I'm locked out the Twitter account, but still follow Dee Dee's Cry on Twitter and on Instagram.
Yeah, good for you. And yeah, we thank you for coming on. And everybody, please check out Toy Burton on her social media sites that she presented. Please hit like and subscribe. And if you or anybody else are going through some mental health struggles or have suicidal thoughts or ideation, please call 988 or the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. And we'll see you next week for the next episode of R&U.
Gee, that's all we have for Relentless and Unstoppable. So tune into the next episode to hear more amazing stories from amazing guests. This is Keith